welcome to this episode of the Charter School Connection. My name is Dallan, and I'm really excited for this episode because we interview a lot of administrators, a lot of principals, a lot of teachers, some board members. But in this episode, we're actually going to get a different perspective. I have a fantastic guest, Kathryn Welch. She is the Assistant Athletic Director at Helix Charter High School. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
So Kathryn, tell us, how did you get to where you are? What was your path to the charter school world?
It's kind of backwards. I was a student here at Helix. I graduated from Helix and then I went away to college and I entered the sports medicine world. My degree is in athletic training. And then I came back to San Diego to go to grad school and I was looking for a part-time job. So I reached out to Helix because that was my point of reference. And they said, yes, we need an athletic trainer. So I started working at Helix right after graduation, college graduation. And as an athletic trainer, it was a great school to be at, but it's just a stipend position. So then I went back to school again and got my teaching credential and I've been in the classroom ever since. So about 16 years now. I didn't intend to be an educator, but it's awesome. I love it.
That's so cool. And I guess if you could go back before you got into education and you would have asked yourself, what are you going to be, Kathryn, when you grow up? Were you going down a different path?
Yeah, I was definitely just planning on being a certified athletic trainer. So the medical assistants you see on the sidelines of athletic events. I loved it. I loved the action. I loved the competitiveness and kind of having a part in the team's goal. But it's a really hard job. The hours are crazy. I have 3 small children and, those games start at 7 p.m. on a Tuesday. And so it just wasn't compatible with wanting to be available to my own children.
Yeah.
And so education really allows me to be, and being the assistant athletic director really allows me to be involved in that world still and really sharing my love for the career and that kind of that pathway without having to be here till 9 p.m.
Yeah. No, that's great. And so tell me a little bit about Helix, because I'm sure you can be an educator and you can be an athletic director or assistant athletic director. And there's probably, I don't know, I'm assuming there's a lot of schools that are probably in need. Why Helix? And tell us a little bit about what makes Helix unique and awesome.
So Helix is a traditional high school. We have, 2,500, students on campus, 9 to 12. We're a big school. We were traditionally a part of the Grossmont Union High School District, and we chartered separately from the district, but we still are we have a full performing arts department and a full athletics department. We have ROP pathways, or what are now called CTE pathways. So we're a full comprehensive school, and we serve a really diverse community, which I thoroughly love. I think it makes me a better human to be and learn from my students about their cultures and their families and their lives. And then I also think it makes our students better people, that they're surrounded by people that are different from them and still collaborating and learning and growing with them. So that makes Helix a great place for me. I'm excited for my own children to attend Helix when that time comes, just for the sense of community it provides.
And how long has Helix been around?
So Helix was started in 1952 as a part of the district, but it was not a charter in 1952, obviously.
Yeah.
And I should have done my research, but I think it chartered in 96.
Okay.
So it's been a charter for a long time. It was a charter school when I attended Helix in 1999.
Awesome. No, that's so cool.
So, and it definitely allows us to see a need and address it as opposed to being a part of the district, which I obviously I feel like a lot of your listeners understand.
Yeah.
For example, I really wanted to revamp my medical pathway and really better serve my students. So my administration really supported me finding funding to transition my whole class into a medical assistant certification course. So now my students are all going to sit for their medical assistant exam in May.
Whoa,
And
that's awesome.
yeah, and I asked for that to happen in November, and we rolled it out in January. So those things are obviously what makes Helix awesome, like just that support and, you know, they listen to me saying like, this is what's better for our students. And then we made it happen. At the district level, they're still having those conversations. I truly believe that. I truly believe that all teachers are having those conversations. It's just taking longer to get to fruition.
Yeah, of course, a little bit more red tape. And so,
yeah, and it's just hard, you know, it's harder to kind of roll it out on a bigger scope. So, yeah, that's
and so I'm sure some of our listeners that are going to hear this episode are going to go, okay, I want to revamp my athletics department, or I want my students to be healthier. I want it to be more than just, all right, everyone go play dodgeball for an hour. Or, hey, like I want to start a sports program and have actual sports teams that and offer that to my students, extracurriculars. There's a lot of different questions that they might have.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to an administrator that's trying to grow the athletics department in any way, whether it's healthier lunches to sports teams, or what advice would you give to someone that is kind of starting from scratch?
I think your why has to be defined. So this is just huge from Damon Chase, our athletic director. He really pushes us to define our why. Like, why are we having this team? Why are we having an athletics department? Is it to win? Because that's not going to get you, like, that's not going to continue to serve you. Is it to get these kids to play in college? Probably not, because 3% of high school students continue to play in college, 3%. So we really strive to have a mission statement, not only for our entire department, our athletics department, but each individual coach. Like, what is your why? Why do you work these hours for a small stipend, right? If you were to calculate out your hourly wage, you would just be so upset. But, you know, we're training these young men and women about how to rebound when you lose, how to be a part of a team, how to communicate when you're disappointed, these bigger life lessons that I think sometimes we can only learn through athletics. And so I'm a mediocre athlete, but I feel like the work ethic I learned from my time in high school is what's important. And I just want to continue to give that to these students. So, and then there's also all the other added benefits of, like, they're healthier, there's school spirit, there's, you know, community involvement, like all of those are pluses too. And maybe those are your whys. Maybe those are your initial jumping off points, but I really think that needs to be defined, and kids need to buy into that.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not always going to be the best. I'm not always going to play 100% of the time. I'm not always going to win, but like, I'm still enjoying things and my school, and I'm still learning things. And I think that's hard for some kids. I think that's hard for humans.
Yeah,
right.
for
Like,
sure.
we're like, this isn't any fun, I want to quit. And it's like, well, no, we have to keep going. We have to live up to our commitments. And so I'm really, you know, those are really important. I think if you're starting an athletic department, or really any type of, if you're going to ask any more of your staff in any way, you need to establish a why. And I think your staff needs to feel involved in that.
Yeah. And I feel like it's pretty easy to say, like, figure out your why, like, and at like maybe a conference, they go, figure out your why. And they go, yeah, I'm going to figure out my why. I take a note. That's my why. And then they go home like, now what? So
yeah.
do you
You're
have
kind of in that conference glow?
So,
you know,
so what systems or processes or things have you implemented where you're like, man, because this is our why and we do blank to help keep our why present and to actually bring it to action? Do you have any ideas? Yeah, I don't know.
Absolutely. One of my major tasks as the assistant in the last couple of years has been to survey both our parents and our student athletes at the end of every sports season. And we ask them point blank, this is our mission statement. Are we upholding this? Do you agree we are upholding this? So I think we're being incredibly transparent that this is our goal, right? That we are using our athletics to build strong communities, student leaders, integrity. And do you feel that our department and our coaching staff is doing this? And so we're getting feedback from students and parents or guardians every term, every season. And then we're following up with those parents that don't agree or that have feedback for us. Right? Like, it's easy to set a New Year's resolution and not tell anyone, and then like no one knows if you failed. Right? So I mean, you have to claim your purpose. Like, you have to make it visible. And we're always doing in the athletic department kind of professional development. Like, we'll have books to read and lessons and discussions about that as well. Like, are we meeting this? What can we do to better? What can, the leadership do to better support the coaches so that you can then be a better conduit of that mission statement?
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been interesting. It's also hard. I mean, anytime you ask for feedback, you have to make sure you put your defense mechanism in the back, right? You're like, just take it in, breathe, and
that's fantastic. I love that. And maybe, do you happen to have any maybe feedback well, let's start with stories. Do you have any stories of like, for an administrator that knows that they need to do these things, figure out their why, implement this department, that they've determined that that's what the direction they want to go? Do you have any stories to say like, hey, I know that this is a big step. This is why you should do it, because X story, or because of this thing that just happened? Any like feel good stories that you could maybe share with that administrator that kind of needs that boost?
It's really actually not my story, but my husband flew out of town, and then he had an Uber, and he was talking to his Uber driver, and he found out that his Uber driver was from Turkey, and he's like, how did you get to La Mesa, California? Like, how? And he said, I really wanted to move my children to California, and then I researched communities, and San Diego felt like the most manageable when compared to LA or San Francisco. And then we ended up in La Mesa because I was researching this school, and they just really push their students, and they're really welcoming, and they had athletics and band, and they had all the things that my kids were really looking forward to. And then my kids went there, and they were just so supported, and they loved it, and they felt welcome, even though they were from Turkey, and English was their second language, and they felt included. And he's like going on and on about this school. And then my husband said, well, what school was it? And he's like, it was Helix. And then my husband let the, he's like, that's where my wife works. And this guy was just so, like, he started like almost crying. He's like, you're my friend. You're, like, these are the people that helped my children and helped our family. And to me, that's the story of the why, right? Like,
I love that.
Why we show up every day, because, and I think too, I know I rediscovered my why during COVID when I'm like looking at a blank screen of students.
Yeah.
Because we just don't know what's going on with these kids. And so to show up every day in the classroom, or on a football field, or on the baseball field, or in the pool, or whatever medium or environment you're meeting them in, right? Like, you're providing these students an opportunity to find joy, to find support, to connect. I have so many I have a drawer full of letters of students that write me notes and thank me, and I pull them out on really hard days, because there's those hard
Yeah.
days, right? And I'll just read them
They fill your cup.
whenever I get discouraged, or like, what am I doing here?
Mhm.
Yeah, I use them to fill my cup, because I mean, we all have a teacher we remember, maybe even from like third grade, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's important to just, like, it can't be for the money.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
it
for
can't be
sure.
for the money, it can't be for the fame. Um, it it has to be for the connection.
Mhm.
It has to be, and it has to be for the community, and just to be a positive
I love that.
person.
Um, a lot of schools say, how do we increase our community? And they go, let's do Facebook ads, or let's get a
Right,
billboard. And like, that's advertising. That's not
right,
that's what I do. That's Charter Connect. Like, that's not community building. Community building, and they're like, oh well, let's hold more PTA meetings, or no. Oh well, let's offer school tours. It's like, you
again,
need to
advertising.
like get out of this mindset of like enrollments and advertising.
Right,
Like, what builds community is a football game, a volleyball game, a dance class. Like,
right. A play, a band show, a choir, like a
yeah.
concert, absolutely. When we our director of like public relations, she's been doing these family first nights once a month. And so, like, one's coming up about saving for college, and then we're having these opportunities, like mental health education, and social media safety, like these things that parents are overwhelmed by. Like, you need to
Mhm.
serve them as well, right? They're your teammate in this. And I feel like
Mhm.
sometimes we often feel like, in some situations, like it's us versus the parents, right?
Mhm.
Because it can feel like that in some situations, but for the most part, parents, I feel, at least here, are like very quick to correct their child.
Yeah.
Like, did he misbehave? Like, let's talk about this. Um, and it's scary to be a parent of a teenager. I think it's scary to be a parent.
Mhm.
And so I think that's a really easy way. You don't need a football field or choir to serve your community in that way for some of these smaller charter schools.
Yeah.
And you could even like poll the parents, like, what information do you want and what expert
Mhm.
we bring in,
Yeah, for sure, completely.
you know?
And I have another question. What if there's a charter school, because you just mentioned this, where their goal is never to have a big athletic department. They are a STEM school or a virtual school, and athletics will never be a part of their organization per se as
Mhm.
a department. Do you have any ideas, or because I think it would be easy to go like, you know what, we're just this little tiny STEM college prep school
Right.
or like a night school. We don't really need to focus on athletics. How could they get athletics or at least physical activity in
Mm.
their school? Or do you have any ideas, or maybe a podcast or a book or a online workout program, or um, any sort of advice for someone that they don't need a big thing, they just need maybe some small guidance?
Yeah. So I really like this Twitter channel called Wanna Teach PE. And
Okay.
it's really collaborative. So it's a lot of PE teachers from all over the country that say, like, this worked really well with my fourth graders, or even ask, like, what do you do for this? And they come up with some really fun, like, silly
Hmm.
optional things, and um just it's fun to watch. And then for the upper grades, or like you said, like virtual school, I think there's awesome things to be said for like using your community. And I know I come from a place of San Diego being a place of outdoor privilege year round, but like, I love walking our lake or hiking Cowles Mountain. And if you can organize, like, okay, we're gonna meet on Tuesdays at the whatever,
Hmm.
the lake entrance, or the whatever you
Yeah.
have available. Because I think, in my opinion, physical education should be teaching kids lifelong skills, right? Just like math is teaching them lifelong skills in arithmetic, we're supposed to teach them lifelong skills on how to stay healthy. And when you age, that looks like, hey, you want to go hiking? Hey, you want to go on, like, you want to go
Yeah.
play beach volleyball or whatever. And so I think giving them those skills of like, we're going to walk and talk or bike and talk or surf or whatever is
Mhm.
available to your community. I think that's a great thing. I saw, I think it went viral that like a cross country team was taking out shelter dogs for runs and walks.
Oh, cool.
Like, wouldn't that be a great idea for a small charter school to partner with their local shelter and just walk the dogs? Or,
Yeah.
and it's physical activity for them, it's community service, it would be great publicity for the school. And it would be like, what do you do for PE? I walk really cute dogs. Sure. Like, how is that not a win-win?
Yeah.
So I think you can get really creative and not have to invest in facilities.
I think that's awesome. And I got way more than what I was hoping for
Oh,
with that answer. That was a fantastic answer.
good. I'm glad.
Yeah, so I think those are great ideas. And in the show notes section of this episode, people can go to see the links to Want to Teach PE. And I'm going to look for that video about walking dogs so that people can go check out all the things that you're
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
But
I can
cool.
also, I can send you links to the books that we've used in our PE departments, kind of defining our why. And I should have had them ready. I apologize.
It's okay. Yeah. When you
It's
send them,
our
I'll add
finals
them.
day, so we just finished quarter 3, so I've been cramming in grades.
No worries. Yeah, if you send them to me, I'll include them in the show notes so that our listeners can click on the links to view those books and
Yeah.
videos and Twitter pages. And awesome. There
Great.
is one more question that I do want to ask, and it's not a very exciting question.
Okay, I'm ready.
It's kind of a boring one, but I feel like it's important, especially for athletic departments. How do you handle hiring? Because I feel like hiring someone in the athletic department, like a coach or someone that is working with students after hours and doing long bus rides and really like being a pretty big influence on children is a little bit different than finding a substitute Spanish teacher.
Absolutely.
So how do you go through a hiring process to make sure that you have good staff?
Yeah. Ideally, we love it when our teachers are also coaches, right?
Cool.
People that are on campus, understand, have background in dealing with high schoolers, have, an understanding of teenagers and all of that. But that doesn't always happen because it just doesn't. It's a lot to ask full-time teachers to also coach. We have a standard interview sheet that's, what's your experience as an athlete? What's your experience as a coach? How do you define success? Right. And that one really can expose a lot about someone. And if they're going to match
Yep.
the why, the culture of your organization. We talk about, how do you deal with conflict with your athletes or with parents? But really it's really standard questions, and they're not like get you questions. They're pretty easy, or not easy questions. They're straightforward. And then we let them elaborate. And sometimes we have amazing coaches that never played beyond high school, right? They're not these amazing athletes, and they don't need to be. They need to be able to communicate and connect and deliver on the whys. And so that's really how we go about that.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Of course. It was awesome to talk to you.
Yeah, Kathryn, are there any other things that you'd like to share? Maybe something on your mind that I didn't ask before we wrap up?
No, I think this was a great conversation. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. This is gold. I don't know how we get such awesome guests that give such great insights.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And everyone, check out this episode. Go to the show notes if you want to learn more about Helix Charter High School, what they're doing there. If you want to read any of the books, view any of the links that she's mentioned. And Kathryn, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.